3 in a row. What a story, guys. What a story. 3 in a row against a team that was supposed to be trying to take us down. Is there anybody in the league right now? Or not the league. I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to say that. I got ahead of myself there. What I meant was division. Okay? Straight up. Is there anybody in the division that's even going to try and challenge us? Or are they just handing this thing over to us already? I don't trust them. Okay? I trust my Leafs, but I don't trust these other teams. I feel like they're like, you know what I mean? Pulling pranks on us. Something's going on, man. We're getting punked. Okay? The other teams got Ashton Kutcher on their corner or something like that. We're getting punked here. Because I don't even think Edmonton played bad in Game 1. I still don't care what anybody says. I thought that they played great in Game 1. They just didn't have things go their way. And I know, because anyone who's following along with the Leafs knows that that's what happened in that game against Calgary. There was a game against Calgary, wasn't it, where we did the same thing? You know, had all the opportunities, all the defense, and still couldn't win. Just didn't go our way. So then literally the next, game against Edmonton, that's what happened, that first one. And then they fell into that Leaf trap, man. Do you guys see, for those of you who don't follow any of the teams in the West, okay, and I don't blame you if you don't. It's a different time zone, it's tough. But I see all the highlights, and I got people reaching out to me on this stuff, okay? If you haven't checked out the teams in the West, I don't think there's any team that is more like Toronto than Edmonton right now. Okay, not just like right now, but the whole history of everything in the last, I would say, like 15 years. Okay, well, actually, since the last time that the Oilers went to the Cup Finals. That was an impressive run. But since then, they've been right there in Leafland, just out west, okay? They keep getting these players that look like they're going to help them through a rough time, and then they get dogged, and then before you know it, you know what I mean? Now they're near, they're losing games they're supposed to win. Everyone's spirits get down, and they're a very emotional team, okay? Edmonton is very much like Toronto, at least used to be up until even last year, where if you get them on the wrong mood, if you can get into their heads, they're done. They're done because they're not mature enough to bring themselves out of that. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful, mature way. I mean, because they probably got a lot of younger minds that still haven't been through it, I know they probably got some veterans too, but I'm saying that the young guys, like McDavid even, he gets in his own head, man. McDavid is McDavid's own worst enemy. He's the only one that McDavid has to worry about. That's the kind of player he is. You see how frustrated he is now? Right? You could see it. You could visibly see it in how he's playing, how he's sitting on the bench, how he's handling interviews. You could see that he's in his own head. I'm not saying it's personal to Toronto. I'm not saying we own the guy or anything like that. I'm not going to get too cocky about it, okay? Because if this continues on to another game, once they're done with Toronto, who's next for them? I don't even know. But if they lose game 1 of that, it's going to be a disaster for them, man. Because right now, at least they can say to themselves, hey, maybe it's just because it's Toronto. Maybe it's because it's Toronto. They're the number 1 team in the league. Number 1 team in the division. The blue and white was in town. So they could always just tell themselves that, right? If they have to get themselves out of it. But if they lose game 1 to whoever plays next, Edmonton's going to be toast for a while, man. Because it's all up here for them. They totally have got the skill to keep up with Toronto. There's no reason why we should be blowing them out like this, guys. Are we good? Yeah, I think so. You know what I mean? Do I think we could at least put up a fight against any team in the league right now? Yes. I'm not saying we'd even win, but we would put up a fight against any team in the league right now. Okay? But we shouldn't be steamrolling guys like Edmonton right now. They get too much talent. That Draisaitl dude, you know what I mean? Him and McDavid, I don't care if they're the only two that you know, because some of you guys say that, right? And I joke about it because I want to make Edmonton fans mad. Right? I really only joke that they only got one guy, and I pretend not to know who the other guy is, right? That other guy with the D in his name, like Douglas, you know what I mean? That guy who helps out McDavid all the time. Dickinson, you know what I mean? I drive him crazy with that stuff. That's how I like to get to Edmonton fans, right? There's a little chirp tip for you guys, okay? But straight up, they got enough skill with the two of them alone. They should not be getting steamrolled like this. No way. So straight up, I feel for him. I'm not trying to rub it in Edmonton's face right now. Just thank you. Thank you for not making this difficult for us. It's no disrespect. Trust me. What I'm saying is that the Leafs often make things difficult for themselves. You've seen it in games like the ones against Ottawa. If there's anyone that, again, the Leafs are in the same boat. When they get in their own heads, watch out. They're not winning anything. But as long as they can keep this focused and clear for as many games as possible, with as few slip-ups as possible, because they're going to come. You're going to have some slip-ups. Right? But how could you say that now, right? They are in the zone. Everyone's being a part of this thing. You don't need Matthews right now. You don't need Anderson right now. You don't need Marner right now. You don't need them. It's great that we have them, but we don't need them right now. At least not all at the same time. That's a great place to be in. We got fourth liners jumping in the fray, third liners jumping in the fray. We got VC looking like he's going to get a hat trick tonight. Whoa. You know, Hyman scores again. Dirty goal in the crease. You know, Tavares puts one up after a beauty little just tap, little touch from Thornton. See, you might look at that if you don't play hockey and you might say, well, how difficult is that? It was like a 2-foot pass and it was on the backhand and everything like that. In the speed of the game, do you know how much instinct you have to take that loose puck if you're Thornton and just try and chip it on net or jam it or do whatever? Your first instinct, unless you're highly trained like they are, is to smash that puck because you're in front of the net, you're in a good spot, and yeah, you're being covered, but you wouldn't have the foresight to look over your shoulder and be like, hey, there's JT there. He's going to be wide open. Look at this. Boom. He thought all that in a split second. Or he might have even been planning it before as he's watching around. That kind of stuff is genius, man. I love plays like that. So to have Thornton be the one to give it to him and then JT score, I mean, come on, man. Firing on all cylinders. Firing on all cylinders, okay? And I know some of you, well, that's some of you guys. Actually, no one here, I don't think, blamed Freddie for that goal. But if you start seeing that online, right, just watch the play, okay? There are 3 Leafs players to Anderson's right, just hanging out outside the crease. And good old Nuge swoops in front of the net, unchecked, uncovered. Freddie made the first save. Got kicked out. Not even that far. It was like a couple feet in front of him. But there was nobody where they should have been other than the lefty, I think. I think he was doing all right. Trying to block the shot, but there needed to be one of those 3 guys had to be in front of the net to cover Nuge, and they were not. So I actually feel bad for Freddie on that one because he's the only one that didn't get a shutout, right? But at the same time, that was not his fault. The boys kind of hung him up to dry a little bit on that one, and they know it. They know it. They got a little too cozy. That's all it was. They started to underestimate Edmonton, and they started to slip even for just a play or 2. That's all it took, and Edmonton was back. And you see how different Edmonton played after they scored that goal for about 5 minutes? Maybe 10. I'll give them like 10. Maybe the rest of the period even. I don't know. But it wasn't that long, okay? Edmonton was riding high after that one goal. That's all they needed. And those lips started salivating, the claws and the fangs came out, and they were coming out stronger. It wasn't working again for them because the Leafs shut them right down. And as soon as they got a goal back themselves, and it became 5-1 instead of 4-1, done. Edmonton's like, screw it. Screw it. You know what I mean? And I don't mean purposely. I mean, you feel defeated. You know what I mean? When that happens to you in that situation, your heart sinks because you're just like, oh, we finally got one after 3 games. And as soon as we do, within a few minutes, you're scoring again. It's brutal. If you're an athlete and that's happened to you in a game, it's brutal. So I'm telling you, man, I'm not going to try and brag on anything in terms of like how Edmonton played. Because we've been there, man. As a Leafs fan, are you really going to look at how Edmonton played the last 2 games and say you haven't been there? And I mean like recently, too. You could argue up to as early this year. I wouldn't. I think they've looked completely different this season to me. But certainly last season's Leafs, you know what I mean? We were there. We saw stuff like that happen for a couple games in a row, and you start to panic, man. It gets scary. It gets scary. You want more chug the bottles and stock? Okay, you know what? I can't do it now because it requires like extra buttons I have to press and stuff like that I'm just not used to. Like I'm already glitching just by making little movements. Look at this. Look at this. Weird. See, I'm still using the webcam for this. Anyways, I won't bother you with all that stuff. But yeah, I'll put them in for next time. For now, I'll just do one. Is that fair? Is that fair? Probably could have used the water anyways, so I appreciate that. So, I mean, that's where it's at, okay? I'm not going to ramble too much more about this from my end of things. It's just straight up, Leafs played great. Edmonton started off great and got in their own heads and then just went down the hill there. Just, it was over for them. And don't get too cocky about it, Leafs fans, because we've been there too very recently. So, I mean, that's where I'm at with all that stuff. Now I want to see what you guys are saying, because you've been blowing it all up and I've been ignoring it. Sorry, I get crazy off the start of these shows. And I'm going to try and catch up on some of this now. All right. I swear this new camera really shows how bad my skin is. Ugh. Anyways, guys, make sure you subscribe, okay? This thing is growing bigger and bigger, and you won't want to miss the chaos that the true believer will find himself in. I'm the most unique NHL 21 channel on YouTube. I dare you to prove me otherwise. Bye!